and peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I'm your host, Queen Tamara. And tonight we're discussing the topic of how to educate our children. If you are aware of all the things that are happening around the country, in particular in response to our children and our schools, there is a cause for concern. A lot of parents are concerned and just want to know what options that they have when it comes to educating their children. School is undergoing many changes, and many parents are dissatisfied with the public school system. Things like school violence, safety concerns, predators, curriculum content that keeps changing, or ineffective learning are some of the reasons parents are dissatisfied with the public school system. Some parents and educators feel the system has failed us or is designed to do so. And some parents feel frustrated and like they have very limited choices in this matter. We do have some options, however, such as private schooling or homeschooling. And so all of them have advantages and disadvantages. So tonight we're going to explore what's going on with the school system in this country, as well as some of the options, and kind of demystify homeschooling. So join me in welcoming my guests tonight, and I'm going to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and I'm going to go on mute. So let's start with whoever would like to start.
I can unmute. Um, I'm Shekin Songtakuda Nabu, and professional educator for decades since last century. Education is my passion, and I love the classroom, but I was quickly moved into certain school-wide reading reform and school-wide math reform, and then district level. I'm from Chicago. I've worked in both in the schools and with the Chicago Teachers Union in a whole school-wide reform model. It was very successful. It's out of Towson, Maryland. So I've worked with management at the levels of district, state, really trying to make sure that what is used is science-based, is proven to teach our children.
Yes.
And then my most recent experience was as principal of KEMA, which is Kemet Institute for Magnificent Achievers Public Charter School here in DC, which was a total expeditionary learning, experiential, holistic environment, starting with the whole Kemet philosophy of knowing who you are in the world and including parents as part of a holistic opportunity for our children and families. So I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And let's go with who else would like to introduce themselves.
Assalamu alaikum, I'll go.
All right, well, Salam, thank you.
Yes, my name is Sister Ayeshe. I am an early education educator and caregiver. I've been working with children since 41 years now.
All right.
Currently, I work for Fairfax County government in a special program. We have children from ages 5 to 12. I've had my own home daycare for 11 years. I've worked in probably just about every field dealing with children and families. Yes. So I'm grateful to be here tonight. This is a very sensitive subject that needs to be discussed because the education system, as we all know, has gone down the drain. And I'm about to get out of it because I can't allow myself to be a representative of the new agenda that they have that's out to destroy our children, basically. So I greet everyone on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
Bliss and Balance. We'll introduce ourselves.
Okay.
I'm Hakeem, and I guess my wife is the founder of Rites of Passage Institute.
Welcome.
She's been teaching for way a long time. I don't even know how many years, like 20, 30 years. Um, and I'm kind of like the principal of rites
Mhm.
of passage, the silent disciplinarian if I need to be.
Okay.
And we're just here. We're looking to share and hear what you guys are saying and continue this discussion for the people on your channel.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let's go with Marie. Would you like to share?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Marie. Um, I have been teaching different levels, but preschool slash elementary for the past 18 years, if you count
Hmm.
the preschool years.
Hmm.
Um, I do, well, I've been in the classroom mainly, except for 1 year I was outside the classroom. I do have an admin background, and so I feel like it's a privilege to be here, especially with the people with a lot of education experiences.
Hmm.
So thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining us. And I am Tamara. And for those who don't know, I'm also a former educator. I was a teacher in the school system. I've worked in um, public and charter schools, and I've also am a parent, and I did homeschool my own children for a brief period of time when they were the preschool age to kind of get them ready for school. And then when I finished college, I decided to go teach, and I put them into school as well at that time. But prior to that, we were at home homeschooling. So I wanted to share that as well. So I have a little bit of experience with all of it. I've taught pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and high school reading and English. So those are my background. So welcome everyone and thank you. And as Sister Aisha has said, this is a very important topic. A lot of parents and say things to me now about their concerns with school. People ask for my advice on things because they know I was a teacher, and basically what I'm hearing from all parents since even before 2020, when the pandemic started, even before that, but now it has exacerbated. Many parents are frustrated or afraid of some of the changes and the things that are happening in schools and the things that they're hearing that's happening across the country. Is not just isolated incidents anymore. It's happening a lot as far as with the violence and some of the other undesirable behaviors that's happening. And a lot of parents feel helpless, or not so much helpless. They don't know what their options are. They don't know what to do, and they're feeling frustrated. So we're going to kind of, since all of us are educators and we have this experience, I thought this would be great to have a panel discussion about this that can be shared with other parents, other educators. So the first question, since we all introduce ourselves, what are some of your concerns regarding the public school system? Because I think everybody here has had some kind of experience, either their child going to it or working in the public school system. So what are some of your concerns? Who would like to start?
I don't mind starting if anybody
Please,
else wants to go. You let me know. Um,
floor is all yours.
all right. The I grew up with a mother who ended up teaching for over 42 years
Mm-hmm.
in the private Islamic school on 116th Street in Lenox in Manhattan,
Okay.
and in another Sister Clara Muhammad school in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my I guess involvement started early. I was 3 years old, and I remember playing around in the classrooms. I remember her being there most of the time. I remember her being underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the men in the organization weren't as supportive as I thought would be customary with somebody who was giving their whole weekends, nights, days, total time to it. And then my other experience was going to public school after about the fourth grade, and seeing the teachers immediately telling me the opposite of what I was learning in the in the private school setting.
Okay.
And I made the decision then. Like now, I would say I should have walked out of that class right then in the fourth grade, and I would have been better off for it because it didn't. The public school system at that age, it gave me bullies. It gave me exposure to people doing a lot of the wrong things. Um, it gave me a lot of sit down and wait, and not as much classroom instruction, even life experience, that the teacher would rather sit in silence or put a movie on than to just tell us about their journeys so we can gain that experience that way. And these are just observations and of me remembering my youth and coming up and seeing some of the pitfalls. Um, it led us to homeschooling, and as I say that, I hesitate to tell other people what to do or this is something that you should do, because
Yes.
it's an amazing commitment. It's an amazing commitment, and it's not as hard as you might think, but
Hmm.
it also has its challenges and pitfalls.
Okay.
So I I I hesitate to tell other people because I'm at a particular place in my life. My wife and I are at particular places in our lives where that was the choice that we made, and it was for us. And I understand why we made it. But I don't see everybody having that same background, the same experiences. So I understand when everybody's not just doing it in droves. So I'm kind of compassionate for the parent who feels like they have to take their children to school and that's their only option. It depends on where we are in our journeys. And the decisions that we make are never wrong, they're just for what we're experiencing at that moment.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Anyone?
don't know if I answered the question, but
You answered it. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Okay.
I did have a question too. I was going to ask right quick. Since you had the experience of being in private school and public, did you feel like the bullying was less in the private school?
It was different. It was different.
Hmm.
Um, the bullying was only in the public school. I would say
Only.
at
Okay.
that level, the private school had children. I would say trying to just just be leaders, but some, and maybe not the right directions all the time. But
Okay.
that wasn't the concern. But when I went to public school, it was something where I didn't tell my parents, and I was in, I believe, the third grade. It was maybe the third grade. There was a bully chasing me to school every day,
Mm.
and I got up early, but he was there like a few minutes after I got there. So I was on top of the building, and I'd get in trouble for being on top of the building, but they never asked why I was on top of the building. Why
Hmm.
was I running out of the school before it was time to, the teachers trying to line us up and the bullies at the end of the line because of size order, and I was at the front of the line. So, I didn't stick around. So
Hmm.
that
Okay.
was a few short months before I moved to other schools,
Okay.
but that was an interesting time because my parents knew absolutely nothing about it. So
Okay.
that governs a lot of the choices that I make in my parenting style.
Yes.
I might be extra hyper vigilant, um, especially with children being unattended. Um,
Yes.
Things tend to come out at that point when parents are not around, and it's highly disturbing. If I think about what I went through,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see my children going through those same situations.
Right. Right.
And I know they'll have their own, but they don't have to, and it's not important for them to do. And it's not that socialization thing that everybody talks about. To
Mm-hmm.
me, is having bullies and responding to them. And I read a book called The Fourth Grade Failure Syndrome,
Mm.
and they mentioned in that book the whole style of adding one bully to like an AP class of students that were, really good with attendance and, being in class and not, disturbing the teacher. And but
Mm-hmm.
they'll put one bully or one person who has issues in that class to
Yes.
socialize or train the other students to deal with that one person. And that was a purposeful thing. Like they
Mm.
did it on purpose. And I noticed that pattern like after the fact, or a lot of different school situations.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share their concerns for the public school system?
I would like to just say that I think the
Yes.
biggest concern is that they don't acknowledge who the public is. And
Mm.
since every educational, um, everything is governed by state to state to state, there's no
Yes.
common consensus,
Is
not
not.
only as to who, but also as to what is being taught. And I think that um, I was always surprised that people did as well as they did coming through the public education system. And I know it's because of the teachers and, those administrators who really cared, but they fought. It was like going into a battle every day just to get to teach. And because there's no common public that this particular
Mm-hmm.
society is really concerned about educating. So that's my biggest.
Mm-hmm.
And I too started homeschooling
Okay.
with my church people, and this was in the 80s, 1980s,
Okay.
and started charter schools. Even though they used public education funds, there was a lot more curriculum that could be shared within certain. It was almost like a private school system because there were charter schools in every state and they could collaborate on their curriculum. And so we at least knew what our children were being taught and what we were holding ourselves accountable to, um,
Yes.
that the public schools just couldn't.
Okay. Anyone else? Marie?
So I just feel like I wear a parent hat. I have kids in all three levels in public school.
Okay.
And so I'm speaking as a parent slash teacher. As a teacher, um, I'm just kind of fearful about where education is heading.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teachers are leaving, and people are still trying to exit. And a lot of the ones who have not exited, I feel, is because of many of them still love the profession itself, but it's just that they don't have another means to put food on the table, and they're kind of like just hanging in there because of that. Um, and so I'm kind of fearful of what's going to happen next. It's a major concern, especially for my kids' school. For the last 2 years, she has had at least two or three of her classes where she hasn't had a teacher.
Mm.
It's been sub after sub, and even if somebody comes, they don't stay for a week, they leave. It's also a concern for safety, and I just feel like it's not what it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and there are several reasons for that. I personally blame a lot of the policies, like federal, where you're having people who have never been in the classroom make policies because they think it's beautiful on paper and it's not realistic. And I really blame it for that. I specifically remember graduating from college, and one of my professors really said that No Child Left Behind is going to change education forever. And
Mm-hmm.
boy, was she on point. And so I just feel like every piece of legislation after that is really having a negative impact. They think it's helpful, but it's not, in my like based on what I've seen. So I think people are just burnt out. Teachers are burnt out with the requirements that these things have, Like the curriculum sometimes makes no sense. It doesn't target the students. As a parent, I'm concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just and it comes back to creating policies that makes no sense and saying
Yeah.
this curriculum is going to help the children, but it does not. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like a lot of the stuff that people are doing are not accurate. I've never had a homeschool experience. I kind of thought about it, but I've always felt like it was impossible for us based on what I learned about it. I know a family that did it. So I just feel like as a parent, public school was just the option for us. Um, I don't know. I just wonder what it would be like to have a different kind of experience.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
I'll speak.
Yes, please.
Yes. I have lots of concerns. Dealing with the new age children every day, and also the new age parents. And I see where it's going. Like now, they're allowed to make curriculums for kindergartners about this whole new sexual agenda, and that's a touchy subject that a lot of people don't want to speak on. But I'm not afraid to talk about, because if somebody don't stand up, we're gonna lose our children.
Mm,
Um, and the setting that I'm in, if a child decides that they want to be called a different sex or a different name from their birth name, we supposed to honor it. That just goes against everything I was taught. You know, I have, especially from the Nation of Islam. I have to speak on that because they're one of the best educators that I've come across in my pathway in life. And so, yeah, to be honest with you, ever since they passed the same sex law, now it's like it's pushed on the families and their children.
mm-hmm.
And my fear, my intuition is that eventually they're going to pass a law so uh, being a pedophile will be legal. And I really think that's their aim, where they're going. It's then they don't have to deal with it. Like now, they don't have to deal with their children who chooses these certain preferences, because now it's considered normal and okay. But if we do research, we find out that these children have been traumatized at some point in their life by different situations. And they cover it up and they try to say that this is their normal behavior. I've
Mm-hmm.
worked with lots of children and I've seen these things. I've seen them in young children. I've seen them in older children who were okay, but just decided to do it because, like the brother spoke about earlier, they were being bullied, you know. So I have a great fear. Anytime they can make a curriculum about it for kindergartners, but at the same time, another reason why I decided to leave is because they taking Black history out the school, but yet, we have to succumb to all the other cultural celebrations, all the other cultural history. And at the end of the day, there's no history without Black history. Like, we were the beginning and we will be the end. That's how it goes. And so I am concerned. And these children don't even carry books anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is on the laptop. And you can see them, like their health is being affected by being on the laptop so many hours in the day. They have no own creative imagination anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything we try to do for them, they want to go to the internet. I gotta look it up. I gotta Google it. It's even so bad too. I was around some young entertainers a few weekends ago. They would not perform because they didn't have a microphone. And I told the young man, I said, your gift and your talent is your gift and talent. Nothing changes that. You do not have to have the microphone to still perform. But they got that in our children's head. Everything has to be technology. They're not left to think for themselves and create for themselves anymore. And I could go on and on, so I'm gonna stop there. But also, I do want to speak on the health issue too, because it's a lot of health issues in the public schools,
Yes.
and they're not dealing with it. They're not dealing with it at all. The program I work in, we are inside of the school, and we have totally different rules from the school. And unfortunately, the public school system is very lackadaisical in discipline, health issues, everything. And
Okay.
so I see it every day, and I'm going to bow out gracefully on that because we could go on and on.
All right. And I'm going to thank you for your sharing, Sister Aisha. I'm going to welcome King Ade and let him introduce himself. And the first question was, what are your concerns about the public school system? So everyone that just answered on the panel, they already addressed that. So if you could introduce yourself and then share with us your concerns about the public school system.
Peace and love, family. Love and light to I'm happy to be here with you guys on such a serious topic and
Mhm.
conversation that is very close to my heart, and I've been working overtime to try to find some solid answers.
Mhm.
We First thing I'll say is I'm going to pay homage to Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, if we allow the same people that was just oppressing us to raise our children,
Mm.
we won't prosper.
Mm.
He even him that was pro trying to come together and he knew better. Even him, he knew better. He said, no, don't send our children in there, because he's seen what it would turn into.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry to say, his fears have come true.
Yeah.
If we allow them to keep raising our children in the indoctrination system that we don't even have full faith and belief in, we are really tossing our children to the wayside. If you want to look how they treat their own children.
Mm.
What is the If you knew how many people in this country, the children, the ones that need us the most vulnerable,
Mm.
the ones that need someone to stand up and help think for them and guide them, they're being misled horribly.
Mm.
And it starts in the school system. It starts in the school system. When we send them to school, we already got our rules of our household. We teach them the best we can. But the moment we send them to school, we add different elements
Yes.
that may not be African centered. It may not be vegan or vegetarian. It may not be healing. It may not even be self love. We start teaching them these rhetorics. And please, Black history is a joke. There's somebody, the Grand Sheik of Moore Science Temple says, they picked the shortest month out the year to teach Black history.
Mhm.
29 days, 28 days, and 29 days every leap year. And then, how is that Black history? That's not
Mhm.
our history. That don't teach about our history and what our people did and accomplished. That teach about our people while we were in bondage
Mhm.
in this country. That's not our history. If anything, that's white history.
Mhm.
That's what they did. So I say that to say we really gotta we need to take pride in raising our children, because we got better answers than the school system. I could tell you that now.
Mhm.
I've come up with better answers. I was a GD teacher for about 5 years.
Mhm.
And even the professor that I was working with, a doctor, said, listen, to get a high school diploma, you only got to pass 4 subjects. Every single thing else is an extracurricular. I'd rather give my children their own extracurriculars than have them go through this school system for 12 years just to learn some math, reading, social studies and government, and science. I could teach them that. I've done it for people. So
Mhm.
I say that to say we need to take honor and pride in raising our children, because they are the future of our generations to come. They are the leaders of our generation to come. The prophet Noble Drew Ali said, the leaders of generations are coming out of Sunday school. We are raising the leaders of generations.
Mhm.
These are going to be the leaders of society, but
Mhm.
only if we uplift them right now. We can't leave them in the hands of these school systems. Even the blue ribbon schools, even all these pretty schools, they try to dress up. Even the chart, we can't leave them in the hands of that because we see what's happening. We see our children more lost than they've ever been. I test people. I have an indoctrination test that I give people. I say there's something that you learned in school. They never taught it to you on a piece of paper. They never handed you a piece of paper with this. They never taught it to you. They never said, hey, learn this. You know what it was?
What's
The Pledge of Allegiance. If I start saying it, most of you guys can finish most lines inside of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the.
mm-hmm.
Y'all want to answer?
Flag?
Y'all want to pretend y'all know? Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so most people, if you ask that question, they can recite that, but they cannot tell you when they learn what grade it was taught to them because
Mm-hmm.
they just made you say it every morning, first thing when you got to school, and
Right.
every last thing before you left.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand that the stuff that they're really indoctrinating and teaching our children is not the stuff that they're actually telling them to read in the books. Children will reject studies. Children will forget that, but they won't forget what they spoke over them every morning and made them recite every morning before when they got there and when they left. They won't forget the system. They won't forget answering to a bell like an animal. They won't forget certain things that they are training them to auto respond to. They won't forget walking in straight lines like it's an anthill. They won't. If you understood how much of their freedom and their ability to naturally develop their own faculties we put at risk when we put them into systems, they actually learn how to be an American slave. And by that, I mean an economic slave, someone that is a slave to the system and the dollar circulation in the system.
Okay.
So that's my worries and concern as far as the American school system is concerned. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Thank you. All right. We have enough. Oh, there she
Peace,
is.
peace,
Oh no,
brother.
it won't allow me to add the other person. Oh goodness.
Mm.
Hold on, Queen.
Peace, brother. I day. Everything you
Yeah.
said was on point. Yep. I came to that conclusion and I did it. I stopped talking about it. I put myself on a 10-year vow of silence and just did everything I was talking about. And that's what I continue to do. So I'm just gonna be the example, and then, you know, I'm sure other people are my reflections out there somewhere. And I'm working to that. My
Mm-hmm.
reflections out there. So I'm gonna keep doing what I know is right. And building this family the way we are
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what everybody is going to be looking to as a blueprint. And we've done it. My wife has put it into a website, rites of passage.
Okay. Anyone
So
else? Oh, go ahead. Finish.
no,
Hakeem.
I'm just
Hakeem.
saying, um, honors. Um, I look forward to hearing more from you, and I'm just letting you know I'm here.
All right then. Thank you. All right. Let me see. Next, if you have children who have gone to the public schools, what impact has it had on them as far as their education and their behavior? If anyone wants to answer that, and their overall social emotional growth.
So I have one child that went for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he actually is on a spectrum for autism. I don't like labels and I don't believe in them, but that helps people to understand, like, that helps other people to understand his challenges in an easier way. So that's more for other people than it is on him. But anyway, he did go for a year, and every time the school bus pulled up, he would go hide in his bed. He didn't want to go, and it was so hard. Like the last 2 months, and he was only like 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of his life, he was homeschooled. So, well, I mean, his life is long, alhamdulillah, so it's still ongoing. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was all she wrote right there. But there was a lot of things going on. Like, for example, the teacher, was calling me. Sorry, I have a newborn. The teacher was calling me, emailing me about 3 times a week, talking about behavior of my son that I like, basically creating a record and a stigma on him that was not even his behavior, but trying to make it out to be like his behavior. So, I mean, and he would, even though he, has his challenges, um, he still would say, and even he was so young, he'd be like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. No. So, as far as like the impact and how it was on him and on us, I mean, definitely. And then what happened is, as he was going up, I realized that basically when your child has a disability, they want to, the way they work at the time I was living in Oklahoma. So the way it works there is that they put your child in a general disability classroom. So your child is put into a classroom with children that have multiple different types of disabilities. And they don't, so there's not like a specific usually like what you want is a program for maybe a child who may have intellectual disabilities different than a child that has multiple sclerosis, or it might have like a physical disability.
Right.
So these are different. They had no plans for mainstreaming, and they had basically no curriculum. It was just babysitting. And I say, you know what, I can do that.
Right.
I can at least do that. It was just babysitting. So even though I have a background as an educator, I taught 12 years in public school, middle school, high school. When my son started showing challenges, that kind of took away my confidence a little bit. I wasn't sure if I could do it. But once I saw what they were doing, I was like, I could definitely do it. And I got my confidence up. And then, then I just started homeschooling. So yeah, I can say that's been my experience as far as the 1 year that my child did go into public school. Yeah. And he was, of course, like at that time, he was the only melanated child in in that classroom too.
Okay.
So it was a lot. I don't know if you want to speak on it at all, Hakeem.
We were very hands-on, so I was always up at the school. We planted gardens. We talked about eating the right foods. We changed his diet, and overnight there was a difference that the teachers recognized in the morning. We've helped with their health, like learning how to heal ourselves has been instrumental. But I'm gonna let the floor go and next person.
Anyone else want to address that?
Peace and love. My service went out a little bit. Can you restate the question?
Yes, the question was, if you have children who have gone to public schools, what impact has it had on them?
If no one else wants to touch on it, I don't mind.
Feel free.
So the funny part is we started out homeschooling my daughter, who is now 7. 2 years ago, we actually did send her back to public school. We want to send her to an African-centered school, but I love our African-centered schools, but it costs rent, so I wasn't able to. So we sent her to the Blue Ribbon School in the neighborhood, and before we sent her we had her at about a 3rd grade education level. She went in at her normal age level, which was the 1st grade.
Yes.
And it has been, I feel like she has lost more of the education that she had than she has gained. And I know there's other dynamics other than the school system at
Mm-hmm.
play. She was homeschooled, so she does want the social interaction. So that's something that she is longing for and focus on that more than the school studies. But the wild stories we come back every day are almost haunting. It's almost like, why are we sending her back into there?
Mm.
It's like there's more. Like, if you knew the time I spend, uneducating the wrong concepts that they're teaching, what is the point of me sending her there? It might be better to have a 1 hour of teaching her a new concept she could build on a day than send
Mm-hmm.
her for 7 hours and have to spend 3 hours telling her wow, some of these things is not really is not really either the truth, or don't follow those children, that's not how you supposed to live, or don't do this, so that's not really for you. And so you got to understand that the education system is a system to train the children in a village or a community so that they can be upstanding members of that community. The thing that I would say is the American system works for someone that likes the American system how it is right now.
Yeah.
If you don't like the American system as is right now and you're trying to live a life outside of that system where we're building together, we're eating green, we got our own villages and all of these things, that system's not going to produce that. That system's not going to produce children that will function well in that system. It's going to produce children that every turn they're going to be opposing that system. Do you know that my daughter, we do every rise, and we do meditation, we do chants, we do, gratitude, we do a happiness pledge. She pledges to be happy for all the things she knows she's going to have to do in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Every rising, and it's almost like she fights that which is natural, but is excited for school because she's going to see friends. And it's almost like I'll find you other friends. Like we go to temples, we got different places. There's places to be social. School's not even the place to go to be social. Going to educate. The only thought reason I even consider her even going back to, like, I was like, it's okay if she wants to learn her reading and her math and her basic faculties from there. That's okay because that's something that could be built upon. But it's almost so many things that come with it that, like, why why are we still making that choice? And I fight it, but I know the only reason that we're making that choice is because, as and I'm going to use an I statement because I can't speak for everyone else, I am ill prepared. I haven't created the foundation for them to be able. I've run education programs in several schools at this point. I have a program that last ran in Friendly High School in PG County, Maryland. And it's a phenomenal program, the AGE program, actively generating elevation. So I know intrinsically that we could do this ourselves. And yet the lack of resources sometimes has to, how exactly are we going to do it? Where will we do it? And that's why it's funny that the Queen called me to be on this panel, because for the past about 4 or 5 months, I've been putting together a homeschool collective and have had over 20 educators on the phone and been tapping in with them to create curriculums and just create how we're going to structure and do this ourselves. And it's funny, my Mama Aisha, I was actually going to call you this upcoming week, because another sister actually reached out to me and told me that you guys might be willing to allow us to school out of the mosque. But that's neither here nor there. I just know that we need to create a space, a safe space that we can bring our children together, and we can do it virtually as well. And we can just start building. And we have so many people in our community that are master teachers that can really come and teach our children some amazing things and make it simple. We have people like Baba Kokai that can teach them every bone in their body and teach them all types of things about health and wellness. Got places like the Moore Science Temple that can teach them to be themselves. and teach them to know who they are and teach them the truth about themselves. We got all types of places and people and masters and elders in our community that are just phenomenal. I am so proud of the elders in my community because they uplift me at every moment. The amount of level that they educate me is phenomenal. So I know that we really have a treasure trove for our children, but they're not getting it. We're not connecting them to the source of all this knowledge, to the elders, to the leadership. We just have to come together as a community. We have to unify because we know that's the only way that we will carry out our mission successfully, is to come together. Even if we doing our own little things in small pocket, as far as in the mindset, coming together, working together on curriculums, working together and make sure that whatever one collective knowledge that they have access to, the other collectives have access to the same knowledge. Just much making it more accessible for our children to get the lessons. Because the thing is, no matter the collective, we're going to find ourselves. Our children are going to find each other out in the world.
Yes.
And when they meet each other, would they have gotten properly educated? So when they meet another fellow upstanding member of their community, that they can work together and they can live together and they can abide by each other because they're putting the right things into their mind, their spirit, and their body to help them be a healing and helpful member of their community. And that's what it's all about. Peace and
Thank
love.
you. Peace and love. Anyone else want to address that?
Well, for me, like I mentioned earlier, I have 3 kids in the public school system at the 3 different levels. I have never done homeschooling. I do, however, like the social piece, although it's also an issue at the same time, especially with what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, to be honest with you, I just see the school as one source of education. I have my own role at home as a parent, where I get the opportunity to share with them my personal belief. I know they would not get that in a public school.
Mm-hmm.
The public school has to respect everybody's beliefs, everybody's culture, although they don't do it, but that's the idea there. So I just feel like they get the opportunity to see what life is going to be even when they're older.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if I were to homeschool, I could not homeschool for the rest of their life. I feel like they would have a culture shock when they get to go to college. And so right now it's an opportunity for them to learn what the world is going to be. Um, and then when I feel like the public school is not respecting my beliefs, that's where I step in as a parent. I've done that already. Going back to that LGBTQ, I mean the gay stuff that they're doing. I had a child who I think 2 years ago, the professor was forcing an assignment on him, and I literally fought all the way to the CEO of the school because the principal was like, if he doesn't do the assignment, he's getting a 0. I said, okay, I'm gonna fight all of you all, and I did. And so I took it all the way up to the CEO, who finally said he needs to be excused because we have to respect everybody's beliefs. And so they just going through that alone is a perfect example of this is the world that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that are beyond our control. And so you would be exposed to it. And as a parent, I'm going to teach you what I believe and fight for you and teach you to fight for yourself. And so I think that aspect for me is good because they're just living what they would eventually see in their lives as adults. They're dealing with it right now. Um, and I don't know. The other stuff, like the religious things, because I do have a different religious background. I'm Pentecostal.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that we do at church. So I don't rely on a school system to bring everything that I think my child needs to have. They get what they need from school, they get what they need from home, they get what they need from church, and that's what education is. There are certain things as a family that I gotta teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So, is the public school doing what I would like for it to do? No. Am I ever going to have any school system, even if I were to have a Christian school, that would give my child everything they need? No.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I were to go into a Christian school, I still believe that maybe I wouldn't have like the issues with kids misbehaving and kids being exposed to certain things at the level that I have in the public school, but I would still have some issues because there are some things even within my Christianity that certain people are doing that I don't believe in. And so I will still have to step in. I will still have to monitor. I will still have to teach my kids what I believe. So I would have loved to experience homeschooling only because I feel like it will really take my kids away from the stuff that I don't want them to be exposed to. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I don't mind it because I'm teaching them now how to advocate for themselves.
Good answer. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I can share real quickly.
Okay.
Um, I was like the young lady who just spoke, and I had my children. They were all 6 years apart, so they was in all those different channels of school as well. And I wanted to share a couple of things. Like when my oldest son was in school, both of my sons were gifted and talented and in honors classes. So my oldest son in kindergarten, they tried to say he was ADHD, and at the time, Minister Farrakhan had posted in the final call an article with a child sitting in a chair with a dunce hat on, and he
Mhm.
was talking about ADHD because that's when it was really becoming prevalent. My son is 32 now,
Mhm.
so I took my son to the pediatrician. I took him for the testing and everything. He passed with flying colors. And they still wanted to pressure me to put him on medication. But I took that article that Mr. Farrakhan wrote and sat it on the principal's desk. And they thought I was crazy.
Mhm.
But just like we were saying, everything Elijah Muhammad taught us, like Brother Ade was saying about Martin Luther King, it's right here today. We're seeing it play out right now today. So our leaders were prophesying to us back then. And then I like what the sister said about the cultural shock because I homeschooled my children. I was a child care provider. And even when I didn't homeschool, every job I had, my children could come to work with me. When once I went to work for the county, they didn't allow my children to come to work with me. And my children did go through a shock. They couldn't handle that. So my sons, I was out of the house till 7, 8 at night because of the type of job I have. It's like a split shift. And I had to leave at 6 in the morning. So when my son get home from school, he had 5 hours to roam the street and do whatever. So it's been some difficult situations dealing with the public school. Even though I will say all three of them pretty much excelled. But it was things that they would do. Like once they asked could my daughter play a slave in a play, and I was like, what? That is so degrading. Why would you even have the mind to ask me that, knowing what type of parent I am? Now I did have the chance where the schools would allow me to, brother, they spoke on Black history, so they would allow me to have a display. I could use the display glass and I would do a whole presentation about real Black history. So that was a high point for me. The recreation centers in the school would let me do that. But then I had another son. He got so bored with public school because I taught them. By the time one of my sons couldn't even go to preschool, I took him there. They was like, you could take him home because he already knows everything. But my other son, he would leave school. He would just leave off the grounds of school. And they decided, well, I decided, okay, well, he got to finish school early. He passed the GED test without even having a book, without even seeing the pamphlet. And the lady had a nerve to accuse him of cheating that he turned the timer back. So these things our children have to face because they don't want to accept that a lot of our children are naturally gifted and inclined in their own education because we give them that foundation at home
Mhm.
first. At least I had the opportunity to. So I'm not pleased with the public school, but at the same time, I agree with the sister. I am glad that my children were able to grow up and learn around multicultural settings. So they took away from that the multicultural side, being able to see other people exercise their different beliefs, their different faiths, their different cultures, and that helps them to appreciate us as human beings more. I don't even like to say that word, human beings, but it helps them to appreciate the world that we live in now. I also agree with the sister when she was saying it's just preparing them for what they're gonna have to do in adulthood. But
Yes.
we have to give them the backdrop and the foundation. And so those were just some minor experiences that I had dealing with the public school system for my children. And yeah, I won't even speak on for me as one of the teachers. Right now, they have me under heat, So it's because I want to bring the truth. I'm one of the disciplinaries, but most of the parents come to me for counsel because a lot of these parents don't even know what to do with their children. They got the money, they put them in all these different programs, but they do not take the time to educate them themselves.
Hmm.
So it becomes a problem.
Yes.
Anyway, I pray that we could maybe come up with a team, you know, we
Hmm.
got to come up with a team and we got to make our own. We have to do it before it's too late. And we already on that verge now. So I
Yes.
appreciate everyone who's here representing.
Yes. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. The next question is for the educators. Parents also can answer this too, but as an educator, do you feel that the school system is helping our children be successful or is it failing them? And my experience with that when I was teaching is I want to say yes and no, but mostly no sometimes because a lot of the issues that children were having academically, the methods and that they were trying to use for the child or that they would approve for the children wasn't helping them succeed. And then a lot of times the things that the teacher would suggest, it depends on the nature of the situation, they wouldn't go along with. For example, one school that I worked at, we had very low test scores in reading, and we had several meetings about this, and the scores weren't going up. So the administrators were giving us one thing they wanted us to do, but they wouldn't listen to what the teachers were saying. And we were telling them that this school has a large number of students, too many children, not enough reading specialists, not enough time to focus on reading, reading behaviors that they need, classrooms overcrowded, we don't have enough staff. That seemed to fall on deaf ears, and all they kept yelling or fussing or urging is, you all got to get these test scores up. But the test scores, and are the children actually learning, and are they getting the extra support that they need? They didn't seem to be as concerned with that as they were what the test scores look like on paper. So I felt like not giving the children the extra support that they needed, you setting them up for failure. Because if you see a child's not doing well, you need to start with some interventions early. Don't wait until test time to start, the standardized test times to start with the interventions. It needs to start early. So that was my concern with that. So I would open the floor for some of the other educators to answer that.
Well, I can comment on the fact that because we um, know that when we talk about holistic education, the whole cultural foundation
Mm-hmm.
in our lives and our churches and our communities is totally opposite what's being perpetuated in the public setting.
Yes.
For sure, we couldn't once we started a homeschool, we only could go up to like 8th grade. So once our children got into high school, then we just had Saturday school. I mean, they just had to stay together and learn together and be cultivated outside of what they were exposed to. And yes, it is a learning ground to see what's happening in society.
Mm-hmm.
But 100% of the time, from birth until 8 to 88, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, I'm going to process everything with my children, my godchildren, my grandchildren, and place it in a perspective that is going to enhance their identity as who they are, so that they can take that into their education. I think we can agree that the public system,
Mm-hmm.
it does fail us
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to my premise that we don't even have a public, we can't even agree state to state, sometimes even within a state, district to district or county or whatever, what to teach,
Mm-hmm.
much less how. And we certainly are not sensitized to who we are teaching. I mean, there's so much that I said earlier. I just marvel at the fact that there are successful graduates from public education system, and they're very educated, and they're, they're moral, but that didn't come from the system.
Right.
And so between whatever we can do, if we have to create Saturday schools or Sunday schools or whatever we can do to offset
Mm-hmm.
what clearly is not serving the public, and especially cultural communities, then I think um, whatever we can do, whatever we can collectively collaborate on and say, look, we're going to, we can tag team, you take the first Saturday of the month, second Saturday of the month. I mean, so that we can make sure that we are balancing truth um, against this system that is so lacking, and in some states intentionally degrading
Mm-hmm.
our history and our existence. So I don't think the public education system has a chance, really, but for those dedicated, devoted teachers working with parents to help the children, you know, do and learn as much as they can. But in general, without that cooperation between the home and the school,
Mm-hmm.
the children become invisible. They just become test score numbers.
Absolutely. Yes.
Where I sit.
Thank you for sharing that.
Peace and love, family.
Peace.
I would like to say that I've seen both sides of the coin as far as the children coming out of the public school system and the children coming out of African Center, whether homeschool programs. I was just at Ujama the other day, Ujama
Mm-hmm.
School in DC, and man, the children are just so impressive to me. They're so impressive to me. And then people talk about my children and they just like, your children are advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that are teachers and they saying I'm around other children and I see what's happening. I see. So when I say, I'm not saying this to say that, they're not, children aren't learning in the Western school system. I'm not saying there's not any learning taking place at all.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, I already know everything that they're being taught in that system. There's no real gain in keeping them in that system if you know what they're being taught in that system. And then you know that they're being taught things that you don't want to teach them. And I understand the social and being connected to other cultures, but both of my children can do chants in over 15 languages and know people of all cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you expose them. There's so many places to expose your children to
Yeah.
social groups. There's so many ways that it's like for that to be the reason for us to continue to send us to school. The school system, in my humble opinion, as someone that is a part of a mentorship program at PG Community College, mentoring over 500 brown and black boys,
Mm-hmm.
Moorish boys, from every diverse group. I I see the struggles. I see right now we're in the process of reteaching them, motivating them. There's so many learning disabilities and difficulties they're facing that came out of that same school system. And we're trying to catch it at their first year and second year of college.
Mm.
And when we're giving them this information, if you see how much it inspires them, if you see how much they have why my parents teach me this? Why didn't the school system teach me this? Why aren't they teaching motivation, meditation? Why aren't they teaching? I'm not even talking about I know something, and I'm not just talking in African center school systems. I study all education. Right
Mhm.
now, they're super learners that they're teaching speed reading to. They're teaching them how to memorize and retain 80% of what they read. They're teaching, like, there is so many things that are being taught to children. And do you know that when a child is a child, that's when they're most receptive to these teachings? You can teach memory teachings to the child easily because it involves tapping into your imaginative side. But as the sister said earlier, the more they're put in front of these screens, they're losing their ability to use their imagination. So you're not going to be able to teach it to them once they hit, you know, middle school, high school. They already dealing with anxiety. They already dealing with depression. How many of these systems? How many? Why are so many children killing themselves in schools? Why is the suicide rate off the chart like this? If this is some place where they're supposed to be able to come and be at peace and learn. And then you got to understand the environment of the school system isn't a peaceful environment where they can just learn at peace. They're not creating the peace in that structure for them. I know they're trying and they say they try, but the tries I've seen in the past 10 years are horrible.
Mhm.
Putting metal detectors in schools looking more like a jail day in and day out. I
Mhm.
I I don't, it's not looking to me like we're progressing in our school system and our education. And if you even go to the Department of Education and look on their website, they'll tell you where their system came from. Animal husbandry.
Mm.
They'll tell you what type of system they're running. They don't even hide and disguise the foulness. They don't.
Mm.
They throw it in your face for those willing to read. But most of us haven't been willing.
Mhm.
So I just say we really gotta think critically on this subject. We really gotta think, because the thing is, we're not just talking about us. Like, we have enough knowledge in our minds to train our children. But even if we six of us train our children, let's call that 20. Let's call that 50 children. Let's
Mhm.
call it 60 if we all had 10 of them. How many Negro minded, slave minded brothers and sisters are they going to run to if we continue to allow this to be a system that we're promoting, a system that, if we don't make any other alternatives for our school? I'm telling you, I'm creating a blueprint right now to start with African Homeschool Collective, turn into a K through 12 program, then turn it into a charter school that gives you a 3-year charter to fulfill your charter obligation. Then from there, we go privatize, whether they fulfill our charter obligation or not. We'll go to a private school from there, and we'll just keep contact with the parents and the students and build with them along the process so we can create our own. We can use government funding to create our own. There's
Mhm.
ways of doing what we need to do, but we just got to realize that we have to do what we have to do without compromise.
I just want to add something or say
Thanks for that.
something.
Yes, go ahead, Marie.
Um, I want to be fair, and that's why I'm going to say what I want to say. I think the school system has issues. Why does it have issues? One of the main factors is is the homes. Like
Mm.
we're not talking about their homes. The issue of it, I mean, the safety concerns
Yes.
that we're having, the kind of children that sometimes we have to teach, even with the examples of or the comments about the curriculum is not focusing on the groups of kids that we're teaching.
Mhm.
All of that stuff, I'm so sorry to say, it comes from the home. And the
Yes.
reason why we're having all of this conversation, period, is because society as a whole, the homes are changing. So
Yes.
we got kids who are coming to us in unstable homes. And that's why they're emotionally unstable because
Mhm.
their parents, in many cases, are unstable. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to, I don't feel like it's fair to just blame the school system. And when we say school system in my mind, it's those who are running it.
Mhm.
When we're not accounting for something that is major, which is those kids who are coming to us in pre-K and kindergarten. What homes were they coming in from? Did they have supportive homes where they had people who were reading to them, helping them? Kids who have emotional issues, what is
Mhm.
their home life like? And I think uh, that's the basis for this conversation.
Yes.
So even if we were able to have um, a system where we create our own schools,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the same kind of homes, if those kids that who are coming to us in that new system that we're creating, and then they're coming from broken homes with kids with emotional issues, with kids who have no parental support, with kids who they go home to nobody, with kids who they go home to nobody who pays attention to them and talk to them, we're gonna have the same problems. I'm so sorry. I want to be fair to the school system. Yes, we have people who are making policies who should not be making policies. Yes, we are being influenced by the government and what is happening in our society. Um, we have people in political positions who are making decisions who should not be making decisions because, in my eyes, personally, they're immoral themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the big factors is the home. I still feel like if we had kids who came from strong backgrounds, supportive parents, grandparents, whoever their legal guardian is, who would watch their kids, pay attention to what they do, support them. A lot of the conversations that we were having now, we would not be having.
Yeah.
This Yes, because it takes all of that to make a school. It's not just the administrators, it's not just the teachers, it's the students, it's the parents, the community. All of that makes up the school. So yes, I can agree with that.
Um,
Yes.
so what I would say is, I would just tell you to look at this. Who raised the children, the parents that's raising the children right now? What system did they go through? What
Mhm.
education did they have? And even now today, we're dealing with children that's dealing with these mental health issues, but we're not dealing with it well. Why isn't that being taught? Why isn't mental health like the first class they're learning into the school system? Why isn't moral health? Why aren't these things being taught at a child level? Why is this something we have to wait till they get to college before we start teaching them about healthy mental health tactics? Well, I'm just saying, and the thing is, I think you missed what I said when I said you need to go to the Department of Education website and read what this system was founded on. I don't think it's the administrators or the teachers' fault that the system is corrupt. I think it was corrupt in the creation of the system. That's what I think, to be honest with you. And I have proof to prove it, but I'm not, I'm just saying I don't really want to dispute about whether it's a good or bad system. We would probably wouldn't even be on this call right now if that was up for dispute. I just want to dispute on how we solve the problem. Like,
Mhm.
how do we come together to create solutions? Now, I run programs that work inside the school system. It's called the AGE program, actively generating elevation. And it's a program that was meant to give all the education that the school system isn't giving, and the school system loves it because it's giving all the education that they know they're not giving. I'm just saying, let's make sure our children get the education they need. I don't want to debate about whether who's gone wrong in the system or who's gone wrong in the household. We need to heal the students and the parents. But we gotta start somewhere. And for right now, the children are more important to me. And I'm here as a healer of all people. The age program, the funny part about the age program is I named it because I knew that there wasn't an age on education. I knew that you could be a 50-year-old fool and you could be a 5-year-old genius. So it's not about how old you are. The parents need more education too. They need mental health education. But if we create our school, when they come to the school nights, when they come and they interact, we educate them too. We take things home to them that they have to read as well. We show them the African pledge that says that I'm here to study and learn so that I can teach. We actually educate, not we educate the whole family. We're involved because this is a community project. So everybody that comes into the school becomes a member of the community, and we treat them as such. It takes a community. It takes a village to raise one child. For
Yes.
a child, it needs a whole village. Listen, if and I want to say this to you, I love you and I love your heart, everybody here. I want to say this to you that children, I have seen this firsthand. Children listen more to other children than they do to their parents. So you want other parents, you want other like-minded children, you want to surround them with systems that pour into them. And that's what it means by it takes a village to raise a child. That just means that when my child goes and they're walking past any one of y'all and y'all see him doing something wrong, y'all pull him, hey, you know your father wouldn't want you doing that. What's wrong with you?
Mhm.
Or that we can all say, hold up, they get the right answers. Like if I send my child to you, vegetables have more nutrients and that's why we eat this. Just they could get the right answers if they got a community of people that
Mhm.
are based on the right principles. And that's all I'm saying. I'm trying to take our children to the next level. I don't want them to stay stagnant where they've been. I feel like this school system can only take our children as far as it's taking them. And that's not far enough for me. I want to take my children further. And everybody might not want to do that. And the homeschool collective I'm forming isn't for everybody. It's just for those that want more for their children,
Mhm.
and one are willing to put in work because we're all educators. Every parent is an educator.
Yes.
Mama, you are educator. I love what you're saying about how you re-educate them and put the things that they're being taught into perspective. But like if they spend 7 hours over there hearing what they're hearing and listening to other children, and then you come and you teach them for several hours, one day a week, or I'm telling you, it doesn't offset. I know we think it offsets. It helps. It helps a whole lot. And your children, they might be straight. They might be straight. But what about the people next to them? What about the influence that they'll get in college? What about the thing is, our children, what I'm seeing is our children are being attacked at all sides by negative influence. And I'm saying we need to surround them in a cocoon of positive influences and we teach them about the negative influences and put it into perspective for them because we know what exists.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we've been through it ourselves. Do they have to learn from experience or can they learn from us? And then they'll go out and have their own experiences. And they'll either see self-realization of, oh, I see what my mommy, my umi, my mama was telling me. I see what my daddy was telling me. Or they'll say, no, I don't see it. And they'll lead them where it leads them. Every person has to make their choice. Even children, they have to grow up to make their own choices. I just want to give them the best choices and knowledge and things that I have found. I feel that it's not fair that I have found all this knowledge that isn't being taught in the school system. If I can find it, and these are educators that specialize on finding education to give to our children, and they're not utilizing all these things that I have found, and yet I have the school system saying they appreciate my program that uses all these alternative teaching methods that they're not using, they're even telling you that they need more. So that the school system needs more. So our children are telling us that they need more. I'm just saying, and it doesn't even have to cost us a lot. If five of us came together and did one day a piece and taught a curriculum for one day a week, that's five people. You done freed up 4 days, and they're going to be taught by other qualified teachers all throughout the week. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying come together with an answer that can actually be helpful and productive. That's all I'm saying. Peace and love.
Thank you. Um, Anyone else? I think we kind of addressed that. The next question I had, which is for everyone, um, why do you think parents aren't more involved in their children's education? Because we've all mentioned here as educators that parents are a big influence over their child's education, whether they're present or not. Why do you think parents are not as involved? Aisha,
Assalamu alaikum.
Blake's mom.
I, I, I mean, let's just take a quick look at the world we living in today as a big rat
Mm-hmm.
race. We so busy just trying to keep a roof over our heads that it's taking our attention away from our children, and we've left them to almost basically raise themselves. Not that we intentionally do it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a means of survival now. That's
Yes.
just one group of us. Now there are some parents that are so busy trying to be young adults instead of mature, responsible adults.
Mm-hmm.
They just out here living their best life, as they call it, and they're not attentive to their children's needs and requirements or their wants. So the world is in upheaval, and it's a lot of stress and strain. And I know some women may be upset with me, but until the mother takes back their rightful place, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, when the fathers are challenged almost 10 times more than we are, especially our dark, our African American brothers. And so I feel like until us mothers come back to the base, come back to home base,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to continue to lose the children. They're left to take care of themselves, and it's because we're so preoccupied. You know, the women are now in competition with the men. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get everything they can, and it's very sad to see because our family base and foundation has been broken all the way down. So unfortunately, I lean more towards the mothers to get our place back. This is the time for us to get our place back. We have to be more supportive of these fathers. I deal with a lot of young adults that I counsel, and it just behooves me how these young women treat these fathers. And the fathers need to know they have just as much right as the mothers. We got to start. One thing about Professor Smalls, James Smalls, I don't know if y'all familiar with him, but he taught me a good lesson. When his grown adult children married with families would have breakdowns in their relationships, he would bring them back home. Come home. You stay here until we fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to stop throwing our children out. That's what the white society want us to do. You know, they be telling us the children 18 and they grown, but they don't do that with their children. They
Mm-hmm.
make sure their children established before they send them out there. So anyway, it definitely takes a village, but it mainly takes a mother to start healing our nation. And we have to get back to that. And we have to be more supportive of the fathers and the men in our lives. And then the children will live and they will see that example. I learned what's the best teacher? Example, example, example.
Yes.
So we have to be that example for them, especially in these days and times. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Shechem, would you like to answer?
No, I think Aisha actually, we know what's confronting our people, and we absolutely have the same understanding. I don't know if I could add anything because it's everything she said is, and it's been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just to support, the sisterhood, the motherhood. I mean, if the grandparents are raising the children, it would be, a lot of times it's the grandmother. So restoring our supporting of one another, and that way we can uplift our men. But we have to. I mean, it is a. I think the sisterhood and supporting one another will bring the nation,
Mm-hmm.
closer together. But it's just like it's Marie what she was saying. It's the home. So
Yes.
how do we support holistic homes,
Yes.
holistic families and homes, and a lot of the understanding, mm, a lot of possible anti anything that's against us. We can honestly say at some point it was much more directed towards our men.
Mm-hmm.
So, healing ourselves, healing our nation is just it's a noble endeavor. And
Yes.
it's the family. It's the family. When I was teaching in Inglewood in Chicago, and we would insist that, the parents despite the fact that they are fighting drugs, they are fighting crime perpetrated against them. They're finding low opportunities for working outside of the home. Um, we still knew they were doing the best they could do, and they were sending us their best children every day. They were sending us the best they could. They were not waking up in the morning and saying, I want to just make it a bad day. I'm not feeling good. No, they absolutely were doing the best they can. And so, how can we empower, and that's advocate, and as educators, continue educating ourselves on how to empower our communities so that we can not be um, defeated by all of the things that we're bombarded with, by the media, by the children who are not conversationally because they're looking at electronic stuff all the time, right? But it's definitely she really captured it. I wasn't gonna belabor it. This
Yes.
has been going on for so long, so I appreciate the fact that the role of our empowering one another as women will absolutely help our children, our families, our men, our nation.
Yes, I agree. And I think also, thank you for sharing that. I think also a lot of parents don't know how to be involved with their children's education. A lot of parents think that it's the teacher's job. Like, I take care of the children, I pay the bills, I feed them, I clothe them, I send them to school. Teacher, you got them the rest of the day, you teach them. And then some parents also feel that they're not educated enough to do it. I heard a lot of that when school closed in 2020 and we had to do the remote teaching. A lot of parents were saying to me, I don't know this stuff. I don't know how to teach. I can't do this. And I'm like, well, you know, your child learning, you learning with them. And so I think that's why a lot of parents are not so involved. And one of the things that a lot of the community schools or um, the charter schools do is try to get more parental involvement. And I think the more parental involvement, especially the positive parental involvement, will help make a difference in the children's education overall.
Peace. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here, having us on
Oh,
here
thank you,
with
thank you,
Tamara.
thank
Um, it has been an honor. It just felt like being with family, and it's just I look forward to hearing more from everybody, and I was grateful for everything. So
you. Yes, thank
let's
you.
just keep going, keep doing what we're doing out here, and I'll be
Mhm.
listening.
That'd be great. And maybe we could do something with like a workshop, especially linking you with the others on this call since you all have been homeschooling for a number of years now.
Yeah, it'd be great to you know connect with everybody on here. So
Sure, sure, that'd be
here.
great.
Is there any last thing you wanted me to comment on or anything like that before we go?
If you wanted to comment on the parental involvement, because by you all homeschooling, that right there is full parental involvement. If you wanted to share.
Um, I think you guys hit it on the head a lot with what you said is going on out here, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's a complicated, it's so many different facets to
Mm-hmm.
it. I think, I mean, I was just commenting and talking to my husband, and I'm like, I feel like it goes all the way back to just like starting off with birth and what families go through with birth in the hospitals, and how they talk about, the maternal death rates and things like that, and how we come into this world from the very beginning. You know, that's, you know, how we come into being parents, and the culture that's involved with like even like courtship and things like that. Because most people probably are having children on accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oops, they're not even wanting them in the beginning. And then they have this trauma going through giving birth. So it's like this disconnect, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about school involvement, parental involvement, that's a lot to get through. It's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks, Salam. Thank you for sharing.
You know,
And Family, I do have several more questions, but I see that this is a really, really informative topic, and there's so many more layers to this. I would like to, I'm suggesting maybe we do a part two next week. If you're available at the same time, we can do it because I think it's 10:30 now. I want to keep everybody up so late because I know we all got, other obligations. But there were a few more questions that I wanted to address and talk more about, in particular with the school safety issues and some of the other things that are going on. We touched a little bit on earlier, so perhaps we could pick up next week, perhaps for part two.
That sounds good.
That sounds good. Okay. Okay. So that'll be great. So thank you all for joining this evening. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for staying in there and doing what you do in the classrooms and working with our young people because education is so, so important on so many levels, on the spiritual, emotional, the physical, just every aspect of it. And as teachers, we're so much more than just teachers to these children because we are setting supreme examples for them, even if you intentionally um thinking, I'm just an educator. Some people do think like that, but the example that you're setting for the child, because in essence a lot of the children are with us more hours a day than they are with their parents when they go home. So we are setting that example. We are bonding with them. It's a deep connection that we share. And teachers are so impressionable because some of these children will remember us when we get old, as the years go by. And I remember I have some happy memories of some of my favorite teachers, and then of course not so favorite ones when I was growing up. But they remember us, the ones that made the most positive or the most powerful impression on them. And so we are making impressions. And so thank you all for what you do and how you do it and the commitment. And also thank you for the jobs that you're doing educating your own children, because that matters a lot. And all of us, I think all of us on the line are parents. And so what we do at home and how we're raising and teaching our own children matters as well. So, any closing thoughts or words? I'll open up the floor. You all can share, and then we will pick up with a part two next week.
Thanks, everyone.
I say I love you all, and I appreciate
Love
all
you
your
too.
thoughts, and I appreciate all the energy that you guys brought into this. And
Hmm.
this is a matter that's close to my heart. I'm a little passionate about it as a father of three. I just had my newborn August 28th, and like I'm praying to see how I'm going to make sure I keep my children safe, educated, and informed in this world. So any way you guys want to collab to work on that, I've
Hmm.
been with several educators already. I would love to join you guys, create a group chat where like we could probably be about 25, 30 educators strong, and we could just start coming up with some constructive ideas and maybe see how we could partner. Peace and love.
Peace
Peace
and
and
love.
love.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Aisha. I appreciate you all